I'm Kento Bento.
This video is made possible by Dashlane. Download Dashlane for free if you never want to forget another password again at the link in the description. This will be part 1 of a 2-part series, so stay tuned. Asia 2020. As you probably know, this video will be different from normal because it won't just be about one event, but multiple events in the near future, all happening in Asia in 2020. Now, of course, predicting such events month by month is extremely difficult, but we can always give our best estimates based on the information we currently have. Before we start, if you're unsure of which countries are considered Asian according to the international community, feel free to check out our video series on Asian borders. We will start from January 2020. The UAE will begin the year with a bang, quite literally, as not only will the world's tallest building in Dubai, the Burj Khalifa, ring in the new year with one of the world's largest fireworks displays, but so too will Marjan Island, just 70 kilometers away. In fact, this man-made archipelago will attempt to steal Khalifa's thunder by breaking the Guinness World Record for the biggest pyrotechnics display ever. And this may be symbolic of Asia as a whole, because in 2020, Asian economies will become larger than the rest of the world's combined, signifying the coming of what many call the Asian century, the projected 21st century dominance of Asian politics and culture. But despite Asia becoming richer, more integrated, and more influential on the global stage, there are still significant external and internal forces holding it back. One of which, this guy. Also in January, the Supreme Leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, will be delivering his annual New Year's speech in Pyongyang, where he'll likely lay out his new battle plans for all to see. You see, North Korea warned back in April it would give the US until the end of 2019 to change their negotiating position regarding denuclearization talks. They said if no mutually acceptable compromise is agreed to by then they would switch to an unspecified new way of handling the matter. They warned to ignore this deadline would be a mistake. Well, as of December 31st, they were ignored. But what does this mean for 2020? Well, most certainly a return to nuclear tests with ICBMs and perhaps even hypersonic missiles that travel 5 times faster than the speed of sound. All this increasing the chances of conflict with neighboring Japan and South Korea. Another source of conflict? Taiwan and China. With the Taiwanese general election taking place in January, China has been trying to reassert their grip on the island, which they claim full sovereignty over, pressuring Taiwan into accepting the one country, two systems model for reunification, something highly unpopular in Taiwan and even more so now with the protests in Hong Kong. Hong Kong being a special administrative region of China under one country, two systems. Chinese President Xi Jinping's hardline approach towards Hong Kong has been alarming to the Taiwanese people, who themselves have come out in the tens of thousands with their own protests mocking Xi with images of Winnie the Pooh. Pooh Bear, of course, having been banned from the Chinese internet back in 2017 for his likeness to the Chinese president. With tensions between China and the US, an ally of Taiwan, simmering in the background, this could all lead to a devastating war in the region. But let's hope not. These are some of the major issues affecting the January elections. But another major issue is the South China Sea dispute between China and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN. That's Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Brunei, and Vietnam. Now, Vietnam is the region's most forceful challenger of China's extensive maritime claims, which could make all the difference when they take over the rotating chairmanship of ASEAN come January. Having Vietnam in this leadership role will be crucial for what comes next in the South China Sea dispute. Flowing into the South China Sea, though, is the Mekong River, the lifeblood of Southeast Asia, stemming from the Tibetan Plateau. There are 50 million people living in and around the area who depend on the river for food and trade. But come early 2020, it'll all be at risk, as the country of Laos will finish construction on hundreds of dams along the Mekong. This is Laos's bid to become the battery of Asia, going all in on hydropower energy backed heavily by Chinese money. Millions of people will lose their jobs along with their main source of food, not to mention the devastating effects on the local diversity. Now, I hate to leave it at that, but we have to move on. Across the Tibetan Plateau, atop the Himalayas, we find, of course, Mount Everest. This, as we know, is the world's highest mountain, but unfortunately, it's also home to the world's highest landfill. You see, the region attracts 150,000 foreign and domestic tourists a year, and as seen in this viral photo which recently made the rounds, overcrowding on the Everest summit can be a real problem. Even worse, the amount of trash they leave behind. Back in May 2019, a small team of volunteers retrieved over 3 metric tons of garbage from the mountain, forcing Nepal to place a ban on plastics, in particular single-use plastics. This ban on Mount Everest will start in January. But from the world's highest mountain now we go to the world's highest bridge. The Chenab Bridge, at a record height of 359 meters, will finish construction around this time in the disputed territory of Kashmir. This bridge above the Chenab River will help form a crucial rail link between the city of Katra and Banihal, and will be constructed with special blast-proof steel, 63 millimeters thick. But why blast-proof? Well, Kashmir is a fiercely contested region between India, Pakistan, and China, which makes the bridge a prime target for attacks. With Prime Minister Narendra Modi's administration imprisoning thousands of Kashmiris and the region's total internet ban entering its 6th month, the longest ever in a democracy, the Union territory appears to be just a powder keg waiting to ignite. The rest of India will be having its own problems too as they enter their worst water crisis in history. 21 Indian cities will run out of replenishable water sources by 2020, including Delhi, Bengaluru, Chennai, and Hyderabad, which will affect about 100 million people. What's more, this will only get worse, as it's projected 40% of India's population will have no access to drinking water by 2030. Yes, some of the blame lies with the climate. Groundwater is rapidly running out, as is average rainfall. However, so much of the problem is man-made, with the lack of government planning, increased corporate privatization, and widespread corruption. Now, as we enter February, the nation of Japan will be celebrating Emperor Naruhito's birthday for the very first time, after his father Emperor Akihito abdicated the throne the previous year. The reigning emperor's birthday now, for the first time 23rd of February, will be a national holiday in Japan, giving most of the nation a day off. The same month, the US ban on Huawei, the Chinese telecom giant, will also take effect after multiple delays, with the company having been accused of facilitating Chinese spying and cyber theft. This amidst the continuing trade war between China and the US. The company of course denies any wrongdoing, but this remains a major source of contention between the two countries. The trade war as a political football is sure to hang heavy over US voters though, as they begin the process of deciding the 2020 Democratic nominee, which for the first time includes an Asian American candidate running for US president. This man, Andrew Yang, the son of Taiwanese immigrants and the internet's favorite candidate, who has galvanized an energetic young fan base with his progressive ideas on universal basic income and job automation. He has surprised many with his popularity, despite in the last Democratic debate being the only Asian and sole candidate of color to appear in an otherwise all-white lineup. His success so far, in some ways, represents an ongoing shift in political power for Asian Americans, the nation's fastest growing and often politically overlooked ethnic group, with over 11 million eligible voters in 2020, more than double that of 2000. But all this isn't to say that it's only Asians that Yang appeals to, as his progressive policies have won over many Americans from a variety of backgrounds. And actually, looking through our comment section now, a lot of our viewers appear to be Yang Gang, which perhaps isn't too surprising given that we are an Asian-y channel. And speaking of, I'm gonna crunch some numbers here and say around this time, the Kento Bento channel will hit 1 million subscribers, all thanks to you guys. When we do reach the milestone though, we'll celebrate by doing something that a lot of you guys have been asking about, which is launching our brand new merch store. We'll also be releasing our very first Nebula original show on Nebula, a new streaming platform we helped create, so keep an eye out for that. Now, in our final event of February, the West Asian state of Azerbaijan, and yes, I'm considering this part of West Asia as classified by the UN, will be holding their parliamentary election. But here's the fascinating part. According to the most popular of unofficial accounts, this is just one of the stages of transfer of power from President Ilham Aliyev to his wife Mehriban Aliyeva. Note, the wife is currently both First Lady and the Vice President, and should all go to plan, future president. As one would expect, Azerbaijan places pretty low on democracy rankings, but this is still a rather unique situation, as if something out of Netflix's House of Cards. I will say though, if Hillary Clinton had become president back in 2016, there would have been some similarities too. In March, the Central Asian country of Tajikistan will also hold elections, but this time, any potential drama involves not the wife, but the son. You see, the very tasty President Emomali Rahman had previously made changes to the constitution, lowering the minimum age a candidate can run for president from 35 to 30. This conveniently makes Rahman's son, Rustam, who just turned 32, eligible to stand for office. Unfortunately, if you're hoping for regime change, no election in Tajikistan has been free and fair, as with many of the countries in the region, so I wouldn't expect the keys to power leaving the family anytime soon. Now, the region's political prospect may be gloomy to some, but on the flip side, Central Asia is home to some of the most spectacular wonders on the planet. You have the intriguing historical sites of Turkmenistan, the captivating wilderness of Kazakhstan, the world-renowned citadels of Uzbekistan, and the awe-inspiring mountain ranges and valleys of Kyrgyzstan. In fact, Lonely Planet has named Central Asia the best region to visit in 2020. This, once again, putting the Silk Road at the center of global interest. As for the best single country to visit in 2020, Lonely Planet has given the honor to the South Asian nation of Bhutan. Bhutan is known for being one of the happiest countries in the world, but also for its obsession with phalluses. Phalli? What's more, the country is leading the way when it comes to sustainability, being the world's first carbon-negative country. In addition to that, in 2020, they are set to become the first fully organic nation in the world. If you want to walk along exquisite mountain trails unsullied by litter, and you don't want to wait for nearby Everest to clean up their act, well, this is the place to go. In April, Bhutan will also likely take part in the first ever ABU International Song Contest held in Qingdao, China, the first of its kind in Asia. Now, last year in our 2019 video, we mentioned that the super popular Eurovision Song Contest held primarily among countries in Europe would launch their counterpart Eurovision Asia in December of 2019, intended to be similar in concept to the European version, but with all Asian Pacific countries. Sadly, due to political challenges, this didn't happen, and it was postponed to, well, supposedly 2020. Actually, it's been postponed so many times, we're not certain if it will even happen this year. The ABU Song Contest, however, organized by a different broadcasting company, appears to be more the sure thing. So, with Eurovision Asia now on shaky ground, the ABU Song Contest is expected to become the first ever televised large-scale music competition across the Asia-Pacific region, expected to reach up to a whopping 2 billion people. If so, this would smash the existing records of Eurovision. Now, also drawing large crowds in 2020 will be the record-breaking South Korean boy band BTS, who have just confirmed an international tour starting in April. BTS fans around the world will of course be hyped up about this announcement. However, one member in particular, Jin, may find it harder than usual to leave the country. You see, South Korea requires all able-bodied men over 18 to enlist in the military before they turn 28, where they will then serve for 2 years. But unfortunately for the group and their rabid fan base, K-pop stars aren't exempt. Furthermore, travel restrictions are placed on 27-year-olds who have yet to complete their mandatory military service. And with Jin, the oldest, being 27, doesn't seem ideal. Still, the tour will likely go according to plan, but either way, he will have to enlist before he turns 28 at the end of the year, which means 2020 will be the last time in a long while that the group will remain as a 7-member sensation. Now, May could see history being made in the Philippines, with the country's largest province, Palawan, holding a referendum on whether to split into 3 smaller provinces. Critics say this could make it easier for China to assert its influence over the country, which could result in an attack on provincial government. But ultimately, it's the people who will have the final say. Though around this time, China may be more preoccupied with their own affairs, as they attempt to take the lead in the race to develop the fastest train in the world. They will be testing out a new track that would allow maglev trains to cruise at a ridiculous speed of up to 1,000 kilometers per hour, or 621 miles per hour. For context, the current world record for the fastest train in the world, set by Japan Railway, reached a maximum speed of 603 kilometers per hour. The fastest train in the United States, Amtrak's Acceler Express, only travels at a top speed of 241 per hour, though usually trailing at half that speed. That's a world record increase of 400 in just a single innovative leap. And innovative it is, as instead of using wheels on a track, this Chinese maglev train will float above the surface on a magnetic cushion, meaning there's no friction, making it extremely efficient and low maintenance. This concept, you may have noticed, shares many similarities with Elon Musk's Hyperloop, which is being worked on concurrently by different groups around the globe. Now, assuming this becomes a reality, this will send shockwaves around the international transportation community, as distances between cities would become almost inconsequential, with trains now legitimately being able to compete with planes. Moreover, this venture could ultimately cut down on carbon emissions, as planes tend to generate 10 times more emissions per passenger than trains. Now, finally, we arrive in June. By this month, China will have become more powerful and independent than ever before with the launch of the Beidou navigation satellite system. This is essentially China's answer to the US-owned GPS, as well as the Russian GLONASS and European Galileo systems, but it will be much more accurate. The Chinese system will be able to provide all-weather, all-time, high-precision navigation, positioning, and timing services anywhere around the world, expanding its service scope from regional to global, further positioning China as an ascendant superpower vying for global supremacy. And assuming the case, with China now having a direct link to potentially billions of people worldwide, this would be a perfect way to expand the scope of the notorious government surveillance programs, which already monitors the citizens' personal data with a ranked social credit system. Actually, officials are hoping to roll this out on a mandatory basis in China in 2020. Now, part 2 will be out next week, and it only gets crazier from here. But if there's one thing we've learned thus far, it's that we definitely need to secure our systems and protect our personal information online, which is why I personally recommend Dashlane. You see, Dashlane makes keeping track of all your passwords extremely easy. It's a convenience tool that stores all your information in one incredibly secure place, auto-filling them on websites you go to. With the Dashlane app, you can log in instantly, fly through online forms, and breeze through checkouts on every device you own, safely and efficiently. It's so secure, in fact, even Dashlane never has access to your personalized data, as when you create a Dashlane account, you create a single master password which is never transmitted over the internet. All your data is stored locally, accessible only on the devices of your choosing. But there's more. Dashlane also has a built-in VPN for every device you use, and dark web monitoring so you can be alerted instantly if your personal information is leaked or stolen. So by going to dashlane.com/Kento Bento, you can get a 30-day free trial of Dashlane Premium. And by signing up using the promo code Kento Bento, you'll also get a further 10% off at checkout. Stay tuned for part 2.